I'd like to call to order the Hatfield Township Board of Commissioners Workshop Meeting for June 12th, 2019. Roll call.
President Zipfel.
Here.
Vice President Hughes. Commissioner Andrus.
Here.
Commissioner Rogers.
Here.
Commissioner Thomas.
Here.
I would like to ask the fire police members that are with us tonight if they would lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance, and we're going to have a special event for them in just a few moments. I do that all the time, and then there's this awkward silence, and then I usually turn around and say, okay, go ahead. So you guys did, you all did fantastic. Thank you. All right, is there a motion for approval of tonight's agenda?
So moved.
Motion by Commissioner Rogers, second by Commissioner Andrus. All in favor of approving the agenda that is before you and on the screen, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Hearing none, our agenda is approved and we can move forward. Citizens' comments. Are there any citizens' comments on agenda items only? All right, not seeing anyone run to the podium, we're going to move on to our consent items. Is there a motion to enter into the record the consent items listed on your agenda? Motion by Commissioner Thomas, second by Commissioner Andrus. Those items include the police report for the month of May, the HTMA meeting minutes of April 9, 2019, and the Calmer Fire monthly report for the month of April. With that, I'll call the question. All in favor of moving those items into the record, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Hearing none, those are moved into the record. Okay, we have a great opportunity to say thank you to the fire police and a formal swearing in. And I would like to ask, we have 8, right? 8 fire police who are with us, 2, 4, 6, 8, to join me over at the podium while we have a short presentation and a swearing in. You are all like shirking away from me as best as possible. And to make it worse, is it working? To make it worse, because there are so many of you, and because I say this all the time, one of the nicest ways and best ways to say thank you is to publicly make people embarrassed a little bit and have some fun at their expense. We're going to ask that you join us over in the middle of the room. So folks, if you do not know who they are, this is the Calmer Fire Police. So when there is a fire and you come upon it as a pedestrian or as a motorist, and you are directed, redirected, and basically helped in any way, shape, or form that you can imagine, these are the people that are doing it. These are the people in the middle of the night, just like the other volunteers with the fire company, jump out of their beds, hop into the car, drive down to the station, then drive down to the area where there's an event, where there's a fire or a car accident or some kind of other event that warrants their being there. And these are the people who are they're on the front lines. They deal with everyone who, unfortunately, probably gets angry or bothered at you because you are redirecting them to go in a different direction. But because of them, the other volunteers that are a part of our fire safety are able to save lives, get people to the hospital quicker, and generally without them we could not do all the fantastic things that our fire safety does. So we have 8 members who are going to be sworn in tonight. They include Gary Minnick, Bill Hodson, Bob Lanuette, Steve Yee, Mark Vaillancourt, Don Ament, John Ott, and Renee Lutz. And so these people are really very worthy of our thanks and our praise, and so I'm going to swear them all in at the same time. We were given earlier tonight the traditional, yes, there is a traditional oath of the fire police in the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania, and I'm going to read that. And maybe what we'll do, because you are supposed to have your hand on a Bible, we'll put it in the middle. Renee, if you want to hold on to it. And if you would all raise your hand, put your right hand ceremoniously out towards the Bible, and then your left hand up in the air, and repeat after me. I solemnly swear that I will support and defend the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania against all enemies, foreign and domestic, that I will bear true faith and allegiance to the same, that I take this obligation freely without any mental reservation or purpose of evasion, and that I will well and faithfully discharge the duties upon which I am about to enter. And I do further swear that during such time as I am a member of the Fire Police, I will not advocate nor become a member of any organization or group or persons that advocates the overthrow of the government of the United States or of this Commonwealth. Congratulations. Signed oaths. And there's that. Item, and that is for the photos. Aaron, did you already get enough photos, or would you?
I could do some more.
Oh, okay.
Can you remind them that they'll answer to the chief of police now? I don't know if you're aware of that, but you do.
Oh, yeah.
There you go. Little reminder.
I'm not sure if I heard Chief correctly. Did he just say that you outrank him now? Is that what he just said?
As long as they don't outpay me, we're good.
Chief, I think I put my agenda over there. That's right. I'll use this one. You know, it's a strange position that you're in, because the truth is as happy as we are and thrilled that you volunteer, we so hope that we don't have to use you very often. It's a service that you provide and a volunteerism that you provide that, you know, it's at the worst of times, but you do a fantastic job. So once again, thank you very much, and thank you for coming out tonight. It means a lot to us. All right, we're going to move on to our, we have a public hearing with regard to an ordinance number 686 for a zoning change from light industrial to residential for Schweiker Park and adjacent parcels. Shall I hand this off now, or do I take a motion?
A motion is in order to suspend the meeting and open the hearing.
Okay, so I will entertain a motion exactly as Kristen just explained, to suspend the meeting and go into a hearing. Motion by Commissioner Andrews, second by Commissioner Rogers. All in favor of such suspension, say aye. Aye. Opposed? All right. For those of you who might not realize it, we just left our meeting, and now we are in an ordinance, a zoning hearing that our solicitor is going to walk us through.
Thank you, Mr. President. So this is a public hearing as required by the Pennsylvania Municipalities Planning Code. An ordinance is in front of you tonight which rezones 3 parcels that we discovered during some housekeeping items that it would make sense to change this zoning from the light industrial to the RA1 residential district. The parcel numbers are listed in the ordinance and in the agenda. The ordinance has been sent to the Township Planning Commission, the County Planning Commission. This hearing has been advertised in the newspaper as required. The ordinance is on file with the newspaper as well as the law library and here at the Township. Letters to the property owners have been sent and the property has been posted. So we have followed all the rules in the Pennsylvania Municipalities Planning Code. That's really the extent of the hearing. There is a requirement that we take public comment if anyone would like to make any comments or if Mr. Amy has anything to add.
I think you've covered it unless the board has any questions.
I'd like to add a few things, Commissioners, if you don't mind. First of all, Commissioner Andrews brought this to our attention. We caught wind that the old American olean tile plant will be redeveloped eventually. We don't know exactly the timing of that, but it made sense for the board to consider changing the zoning back to residential in order to create what we hope to be then a bigger buffer for those residents on Logan Drive and adjacent roads in Hatfield. This is a way to protect the residents in Hatfield, and we're able to do so because this, as the board makes the consideration of the next item, is before any land developments have been filed, so the zoning will change, and there will be no application filed prior to that.
So at this time, is there anyone who has public comment? Go to the microphone, sir.
My name is Mike Shaw. I live on Logan Drive, and I just have a couple of questions. Okay, the 3 red dots, what do they represent?
They're the properties in question, the 3 parcels.
Okay, so where AccuPack is, that part of the building would be removed?
No, there's no plans by the township. We don't own that property, so the landowner can keep his buildings where they are. It's just the underlying zoning will change.
Okay, so the landowner is applying for the zoning change?
No, the landowner is not applied. This is a township-motivated rezoning.
Why?
As Mr. Bebro just explained, we think that it's better for that property to be rezoned residential to create a better buffer for the residents that abut it, as opposed to it being redeveloped in a greater fashion under the light industrial zoning district.
If I could just jump in, it's our understanding that in the near future, a project will be coming forward in that area and will include not only what is there, but in addition to that, more warehousing, more industrial type of uses. We felt as if we could change that to a residential zoning now prior to that land development, would be in a better position to keep you and your neighbors more buffered from the potential and future development.
So there's no builder right now applying for this. This is strictly dictated by the township, but the township is starting to try to get this changed now,
Right.
in advance of a possible change later.
Correct. We had negotiated years ago with the help of the commissioners a settlement agreement with Lansdale Borough that if that property would be developed residential, which at the time the property owner in Lansdale were talking about a dense type of residential apartments, townhomes. At the time, we negotiated an agreement where Hatfield would then receive 27 acres, which we're going to expand Schweiker Park with, and we were pretty excited about that victory. Unfortunately, in the last 4 years, the property owner, from what we understand, has decided to not develop it residentially, however, but develop it with some type of warehouses. We don't know for sure, but if he would go back and develop it as a residential use, Hatfield would still then have the 27 acres to expand Schweiker Park.
So if it gets changed now to residential, that builder or that landowner cannot make it light industrial?
Correct. That's
Or
the
would it be an either-or choice?
No. Once the underlying zoning is changed, they have to follow the regulations of the RA1. Without getting into the weeds too much, there is an existing building which is light industrial, and they would have the ability to slightly expand that under our zoning ordinance. But this way, we're preventing the warehouse use, that heavy truck traffic that we expect from what we think is coming on this property. So we are being proactive in changing the zoning before anything's filed.
So if the landowner is thinking about making, or in addition to his warehousing, isn't he going to fight you on this?
Well, it's legislative, so he has remedies that he could pursue. I don't foresee any of them being successful, and we think this is the prudent course of action no matter what.
And our job ultimately is to protect our residents, and that was the motivation behind this.
All right, thank you.
Any other public comment?
Let me start by thanking you for seeking out the interest of the residents of Logan Drive, et cetera. And yes, I am a resident of Logan Drive.
Could we have your name, sir, and your
My
address?
name is Fran, F-R-A-N, Nangle, N-A-N-G-L-E. And again, I'm adjacent to that. Sarah, when you had said about, quote, a near future, and you had said a project, can you define those terms if you're capable of doing so based on what you know?
At this point, we understand that there's some engineering work being done by the landowner, assessing future transportation needs for a site if it would be developed in a light industrial way, which means, from what we understand, some warehouse type of facilities. However, no formal land application file or has been filed with the township as of yet. This is preliminary studies.
Well, as with old age, eventually it'll come.
I would imagine.
Okay, thank you. The other thing, can I ask for a more specific identity of the plots, my word, being developed or under consideration, such as those that were mentioned in the letter?
Sure. They have parcel numbers. Would you
Parcel
like
numbers,
that?
thank you.
Okay, sure. 35-00-007-006-01-5.
Correct.
Next is 35-00-10759-00-6. And lastly, 35-00-007-006-00-6.
Okay, that said, can you be specific as to where they would be, if that's a fair question?
Well, they're on the screen behind you. That visual will probably help you. Some of them have addresses and some do not.
Sir, was your question what will be developed, over here, sir, was your question what will be developed or what will have the zoning changed?
More the latter, more the latter.
Okay, so then it's the three parcels identified with the red dots that our solicitor, Kristen, has just read out. Those would change from light industrial to residential if the board would approve that this evening.
Can you define what residential is? And I'm sorry to show my ignorance in this regard, but I'm trying to find out.
Yeah.
The residential district that's proposed is the RA1 residential district, which is the same district that you're located in on Logan Drive. Single-family residential.
Single, okay. Good, thank you.
I just wanted to point out too, in case, just to give this more clarity, this one parcel here, sir, if you could look in the audience, this parcel is owned by the township, so this parcel here will not be redeveloped ever. This will remain park space that's owned jointly by Lansdale and Hatfield.
Those are the baseball fields?
Correct.
Thank you.
Yeah, that's
Okay.
not changing.
Timeline as to when this could be anticipated, or is that not a fair question?
Zoning change, if the board approves that tonight, it will change tonight.
Okay, and insofar as if and when whomever the, Accupack, I assume, is the owner?
No, that's, don't pay
Just
too
a
much
location.
attention to that. Yeah, that's just a layer of the mapping that we use. The property owner, we do have information, but he owns the entire site, most of it in Lansdale Borough.
Can I make a suggestion?
Sure.
Given that I'm not a Hatfield resident, nor native, I should say not native to Hatfield. I love the idea that you guys put out that correspondence, and granted, it could have been by law or whatever, it doesn't matter. Is there any way that by chance, maybe a specific address or proximity, an intersection could be added to identify those individual parcels, or is that not required by law, or am I asking too much?
We can in some circumstances. In this case, one has an address of simply Moyer Road. It has no number. Another one is simply Walnut Street. It has no number. So to go with the parcel numbers is probably the easiest way to be sure we're talking about the same thing.
Okay.
We normally do provide an address. In this case, they don't really have one.
Just curious.
Yeah, thank you, though.
I thank you for your time.
Sure.
Thank you.
Anyone else have comments? All right, seeing no hands and motions in order to close the hearing and go back into your meeting.
All right, is there such motion?
So moved.
Motion by Commissioner Thomas, second by Commissioner Andrus. All in favor of ending the hearing and going back into the meeting, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Hearing none, we are back in the meeting. We are going to jump right into our first action item, which is related to ordinance number 686. So now, folks, if you're following along, what we just had was the hearing, public comment, and now the commissioners are going to vote on the ordinance, which would change the areas from light industrial to RA1 residential. With that, I'll entertain a motion for approval. Is there such a motion? Motion by Commissioner Andrus. Second by Commissioner Rogers. Any questions, comments, or otherwise from commissioners or consultants or anyone else on the dais? Hearing none, I'll call the question. All in favor of this zone change, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Hearing none, this is approved. All right, thank you to all of our consultants who worked so hard on reviewing this, and for the residents who came out and asked those very those questions that are great. We're thrilled when people come out and ask questions. When we're looking at an empty room, it's no fun, and so we do appreciate your attendance this evening. We're going to move into our committee reports. Planning and Zoning Committee, Commissioner Rogers.
Thank you. Montella's Crossing 5, Walnut and Cleveland Street, land development.
Thank you, Commissioner Rogers. This is a project on Walnut Street. The star on the map indicates it. Here's the tax map that shows the parcels involved. Walnut Street runs up here, and then there is a paper street known as Cleveland Street that runs perpendicular to Walnut. And I believe we have a copy of the plan. This plan shows, again, Walnut Street down here and Cleveland Street running perpendicular. The proposal is to put a building on the site which would consist of an automotive use with parking to the rear, and then 2 storefronts which would have parking in front. The project required approval from the Zoning Hearing Board for front yard relief. It also required a special exception from the Zoning Hearing Board for the automotive use. Both have been granted. It was submitted to the Township and the Montgomery County Planning Commission and received recommendations from both as well. There was a minor holdup. It actually received recommendation from the Township Planning Commission in February. There was a minor holdup while stormwater issues were resolved. Those have since been taken care of, and we have review letters that reflect the applicant's compliance with applicable ordinance sections. So at this point, the project is ready for the board to consider at their next meeting. Ms. Pianzio will put the resolution together between now and then.
If there's an objection, we'll move that to next meeting's agenda.
And Andy Schlosser from Schlosser & Klaus is here if there are any questions at all from the board members.
Doesn't look like any tonight, Andy, but we'll probably have some in a couple of weeks. All right. Thank you for coming out.
Okay, the second item is BJB Development, 1411 Welsh Road.
BJB Development, this is an expansion of the Spaniels Automotive business on Orvilla Road. They were into the board earlier this year. Actually, I guess it was late last year, and they received approval from the board for an expansion on their existing site, which is this site that I'm describing. They received that expansion. That plan is in the process of being implemented. Since then, they've acquired the adjacent property, which comes out to Welsh Road. The adjacent property has an existing office building on it which will remain, and then there is a proposal to build a small building which would be used in conjunction with the automotive business. It would take access off of Krupp Street, which is a paper street, out to Welsh Road. And again, because it's an automotive use, this property had to go to the zoning hearing board for a special exception, and also required front yard relief similar to the project that I had just described on Walnut Street. Both of those areas of relief were granted by the zoning hearing board. The project's been reviewed and recommended by the Township Planning Commission and by the Planning and Zoning Committee of the board. So at this point, again, this is ready for the board's approval in 2 weeks. We'll just need a resolution of approval.
Traffic going to come out of that new building?
Traffic will come out of the new building where it currently does. It will come out to Welsh Road on Krupp Street.
So does that road have to get extended, or is it going to?
No, the parking area for the new building will come right off of the end of Krupp. And there will.
That won't connect to Orvilla Road, doesn't connect to the.
It will
existing
not
building?
connect to Orvilla Road. There was quite a bit of discussion about that at the Planning Commission and also with the Planning and Zoning Committee. What we have is a property that's surrounded on the other side, the other two sides, by residential properties, and there was a concern that if those connections were made through these paper streets, that there would be much more impact on the residential properties. So the thought was to allow the vehicles to come out to Welsh Road onto the public street and stay away from those residential properties.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
All right. Any other questions or comments? If not, we will move it to our next meeting for consideration, further consideration.
Third item tonight is on 944 Bethlehem Pike Car Wash Land Development, the maintenance agreement.
Yes, this is the new car wash just south of Line Lexington Road on Bethlehem Pike. It's been completed for quite a while now. There were some items that needed to be resolved with mainly with the landscaping and some of the improvements on site. Those have since been taken care of. The punch list has been done by the contractor, and this would simply be a resolution from the board to allow the project to enter the 18-month maintenance period. The amount's been established by Mr. McAdam. The applicant's agreeable to the amount, and we would just need a formal action by the board at your next meeting to do that.
All right. Not seeing any objection, and we will move that to the next meeting as well.
Okay, the fourth item is the land swap agreement discussion, Hatfield Crossing, Cowpath Road.
This one's a bit of history. This is the old bicycle shop and dry cleaner, and I think there was a hairdresser there as well, right across from the giant shopping center on Cowpath Road. And back in 2008 through 13, there were a series of negotiations with the township to redevelop that site. During those negotiations, there was a proposal made by the owner of the property to trade property that they owned adjacent to our nature area for 3 parcels that the township owned, which interrupted the logical shape of their project. So there was a total of 6,600 square feet of land the township owned that would benefit them. There were 8,800 square feet of land they owned that would benefit the township. And there was an agreement made at the committee level to execute that land swap, but the project never moved forward, so the land swap was never done. At this point, it appears as though the project will move forward, and they had a meeting with the staff not long ago, and we suggested that they take care of the land swap first so that the ownership is clear before they come in with their land development plan. So this is just consummating what had been anticipated several years ago.
All right. Again, seeing no objection, then we'll move that to the next meeting.
Okay, the last one for tonight is 1608 to 1610 North Line Street subdivision.
Yes, this is the Claumenzer subdivision. It is a property that consisted of several lots in an area that has movie lots. And the net result is to reconfigure the lots that are on, you know, Aaron has the slide up now. Her to work. There we go. There are currently about 6 different lots that zigzag through the property. And this is a better indication. And they run up adjacent to the Brookside Manor property and also adjacent to the hospital property behind. The plan is to consolidate and recombine the various lots into 3 new lots. One would contain the existing Claumenzer home, one would contain the existing Davis home, and then the third one would be in the rear area, and that would be one new building lot that would be created. So it cleans up an area that's full of sort of awkward property lines currently, cleans it up, creates one new building lot. At the end of the day, it would result in a more regular shape to both the Claumenzer and the Davis lot, and then create one conforming lot, at least conforming in size. They did go to the zoning hearing board and got some relief from the yard requirements.
And what would be the access point for the new lot in the back?
The new lot would access through an easement which currently exists along this property, right by the Brookside Manor Apartments. And this has been, I think we've discussed it previously, but the applicant wasn't prepared to come into the last board meeting, so we'd just pick up where we left off. They'd be coming in 2 weeks with a resolution for approval of the subdivision.
And what's the size of that flag lot?
The new flag lot is just over 20,000 square feet. It is conforming to area.
All right, any other questions or comments? If not, we'll move that last item to our meeting in 2 weeks.
All we have for tonight.
All right, under Public Works Committee, Aaron, are you fielding this?
I'd be happy to. It's just a brief comment. Good news, and we're finally there. 2 weeks from tonight, the board will have a motion to authorize advertising the bids to realign Cowpath and Orvilla, a project that we have talked about for 15+ years. Finally, our consultants, McMahon & Associates, have the permits needed from PennDOT, and the bids will go out. We expect to have the results in front of the commissioners at late August timeframe to be awarded, and then we hope that work will commence shortly thereafter. So one of the most discussed and visible projects in Hatfield finally gets underway in a few months.
Right. Park and Recreation Committee, Commissioner Thomas.
President Zipfel. So our Parks and Rec staff is very busy this summer. Quite a bit of activities going on. We've got Get Fit. It's International Day of Yoga that takes place on Friday, June 21st from 6:30 to 7:30 p.m. It's at the School Road Park Amphitheater. You must register for that at hatfieldrec.com. It is a free class, but please bring a canned food item for the Hatfield Church of the Brethren. We also have deep water aerobics on Saturdays at 9:30 a.m. That runs from June 15th until August 31st. That's $55 for resident and $60 for non-resident. You can register for that at hatfieldrec.com. The Couch to 5K and Beyond. Are you interested in participating in one or all of our races but aren't sure how to get started? This program is designed as a 9-week training class that includes race registration. So you can gear up for our next race, which is the Hatfield Dash and Splash. And the Couch to 5K and Beyond is Tuesdays, 7:15 p.m. until 8 p.m. from June 18th until August 14th. It'll be here at the administration building. It's $90 per resident, $100 for non-resident. And again, registration's at hatfieldrec.com. And our Dash and Splash will take place. This is our 10th annual Dash and Splash 5K race. It's scheduled for Wednesday, August 14th. Registration and check-in will begin at 5:30 p.m. The 5K race will start at 7 p.m. sharp. Children can participate in the Kids Fun Run, and that will start at 6:45 p.m. sharp. That registration, you need to go to runtoday.com. And our Music Feast Summer Concert Series will be starting up in a couple weeks. Our first one is scheduled for Monday, June 24th. They start at 6 o'clock and run until 8 p.m., and they will be at School Road Park. You can join us for an evening of great music, a picnic dinner, and fun for all. The full list of concert dates are Monday, June 24th is Night Flight. July 8th is Panisse Family Band. July 22nd is Philadelphia Funk Authority. August 5th is the Sofa Kings. And August 19th is Southern Edge. So come on out and have a picnic dinner and enjoy our music. Swim lessons. Registration is now open for swim lessons at the Aquatic Center. You can check out information and specific lesson times and register at hatfieldrec.com. And then last but not least, we have specialty camps going on. We've got a girls-only basketball camp, which runs August 5th through the 9th of August. That's ages 9 through 14. A nature camp runs Monday, August 19th through Friday, August 23rd. That's ages 8 to 12. Camp Girl Power runs Monday, August 19th through Friday, August 23rd. That's ages 9 to 12. And the Crayola Passport Camp runs August 26th through August 30th, ages 6 to 12. For pricing, more information, and registration, you can go to hatfieldrec.com.
All right, all good stuff. Okay, under Public Safety Committee, I believe, Chief, you're going to walk us through the next 3 items.
Couple props, though. I'm going to stand up if you don't.
Uh-oh.
No, we don't mind.
Held microphone, Aaron?
Sure.
Oh, no.
All right, so we've been talking about body cameras now for quite a while, and this is Officer John Woodward, one of our newest guys. You can see he does have a body camera on his chest. I will pass one around to the commissioners here. They're not in service yet, but it takes a lot to get it going between policies and working with the DA's office and so on to get things approved for entering people's homes and not turning them off. We had to get approval from the state police to be a storage site for all the video that we will obtain, which you can imagine is going to be a lot of video. Worked with body cams when he was in California as an officer, so he has more expertise in this than anybody in the room, including myself. So any questions, I'm going to be steering his way. We went with the watch guard cameras, which is the same cameras that we have in car, so everything's compatible. When they take the camera off, John, you pull off, it's actually on a magnet, I believe, correct?
I was going to ask, how is that attached to your uniform?
Then it goes to a docking station in the car, so the video will go back to our server as soon as it docks. The
Okay.
videos are already saved, so it's not like we're dependent upon a human being to physically do it. It happens on its own.
Download it, right? Happens right away.
So at this point, we have purchased 14 of these, which the township had budgeted for. I think we spent $28,000. We have a new server going in on the 17th of this month, thanks to Justin, our IT guy. He's going to have that going. It has 16 terabytes of space, and over the life cycle, that we go to 32 terabytes. Should have a 10-year life cycle, so I can't see that we're going to expand beyond that. And it has an 8 to 12-hour recording time, depending if it's in SD or HD.
And it's not on constantly. It's turned on by the officer.
Should be turned on anytime they have any type of public contact.
Get out and touch it. Okay.
So between the server coming online and we have a staff meeting next week, we will probably come up with a hard date then. We have to have a training day for everybody as well to use them, but then pretty soon after that, and once they get in service, we'll have a couple officers come in and actually show you that in operation here. We should have them in service. So kind of a long process, but we're getting there.
The record retention for the videos, how long?
60 days is what it should be, unless, of course, you have a crime or something. Other than that, it's washed. But anytime that anything would come to our attention, again, a crime, something involving a citizen complaint or whatever, we can hang on to it.
Backside of the magnet is attached to your vest? Oh, okay. So it stays in between so that,
One panel under the shirt. And it'll work under a jacket too. We were concerned about that as well, but apparently the magnet is of the type that it will go through a jacket and hang on pretty tightly.
it seems pretty strong. Right.
If you said we have 14 of those, right? So one for each officer that's out on
The
patrol.
officer that's on patrol will have it,
And
which
then-
will be plenty, and there'll be extra if the detectives want to take them. Anybody can wear them as long as they're identifiable as an officer. So even myself, I could wear one, and as long as I have a badge or something on my outer garment, the people, I'm recognizable as an officer. I can do whatever I need to do camera-wise. And we'll have, part of our policy is that we have review of these. So at random, we'll pick videos out and look at them just to see what's happening. It keeps, the officers understand that we're going to be doing that. We're not looking to find anybody doing anything wrong, but at the same time, it's a check and balance on our everyday activities.
So it's audio and video, right? And do you have to tell whoever you're speaking to, if you just approach someone because of an issue or a concern of any kind, do you have to let them know that it's running, or is that not
There's
necessary?
actually a green light on where I think they'll know.
I see.
You don't
I-
have to. I would imagine when we first start using them, since the public that we deal with every day isn't accustomed to it,
Right.
I mean, we may well incorporate that into our tutorial to say, hey, just so you know,
Right.
I think most people are accustomed to seeing them on TV. And so it'll probably be part of our repertoire.
Thank you.
Much like our portable radios. Pretty much take a beating, take all the weather that's thrown at them. They're built very much the same.
Watch this, they won't hear anything. No, let's just
It's
start moving
obvious.
forward.
Question being, what's the availability for public access to the video? Same thing on a right to know. Every right to know request is looked at and determined if it's something that we have to release or not release. If it's something involving you, again, just like a report, investigative reports we don't release. But if it involves you, we're happy to share it with you. So we'll do our best to be accommodating to everybody, understanding that you have to come in a particular time frame as well in order to get the video, or it might be gone. Question being, is there any type of help button or whatever on the camera in the event that the officer's radio doesn't work? No, there's not. Question, sir? Anybody else? You're out. Question being, is there like a live feed of the video? No. And it would be something, again, and until it's docked, no one can get to it. The information is held in the camera until it reaches its dock.
All right. Thank you, Chief. Thank you.
Commissioner, should we ask Chief to elaborate on what a terabyte is?
Yeah, I'd like to hear that.
Feel free, I got plenty of time.
I think he believes it's got something to do with a nice steak.
Talking to these people about how you get beat up and they're going to beat me up. All right, the next thing I'd like to comment on is a case that Detective Hoffner and some neighboring detectives were involved in. There they are. On May 8th, they got an award from District Attorney Kevin Steele. A lot went on in this investigation. Rooftop burglaries in Hatfield and other jurisdictions. People are actually peeling away the air conditioning units and lowering themselves down into different locations. This led us to Detective Hoffner, not me for sure, to pawn shops up in New Jersey and New York to track down some of the stolen evidence. We were able to track down that some of the tools used to break into the places were actually stolen out of the Lowe's in Montgomery Township. And then it got down as deep as Detective Hoffner noticing a stain on a sneaker in a video. Got the suspect, we were able to get the sneaker, bring it back to the store under the same light at the same time of day, and the stain came up. Other than that, you couldn't see it. So it really got intricate. As I said, when Rich Hoffner got promoted a couple weeks ago, he could solve the Lindbergh kidnapping, and I mean, it's unbelievable. We ended up getting DNA from these folks. 57-page report on this, done by Rich Hoffner, and we had three arrests were made out of that. So that was a real nice job on Rich's part, and he was so recognized.
Is that stolen merchandise there?
This is the
Oh,
next
okay,
case.
all right, okay.
There was also a gun stolen in the rooftop burglary as well that has never been recovered. This next thing is another case that Rich was involved in, multi-jurisdictional as well. We were, if you didn't see my pretty face on the news last week, I was on there a couple times.
We did, we saw you.
I got the credit, but Rich and so on, the other detectives did the work. But this was for a straw purchase. Anybody doesn't know what a straw purchase of a gun is? It's where someone who has the ability, the legal ability to buy a weapon, buys that weapon, purchases that weapon for people who can't get them. And then they're either resold or used in crimes and so on. So this is what happened in this case. 11 guns were bought. We got a tip from a local dealer in Hatfield of weapons. Not just handguns, some AK-47s you can see up there. Got a pound of cocaine that if that had been out would have been about $100,000 value on the street. And if you look at some of the clips, and that's really why I wanted the picture up. You can see a couple barrel clips up there and a couple of long banana clips. Those clips hold 100 rounds for a pistol. And if you think about that, the pistol I carry, if I reload 3 times, I have 30 rounds. Somebody else could have a pistol firing at me with 100 rounds and don't have to reload. And that's pretty shocking.
That's not legal in the state of Pennsylvania, is it?
Clips are, yeah.
100-round clip? Yeesh.
So, you know, some real scummy kind of people taken off the street. Again, 3 arrests made in this case. We haven't reclaimed all the weapons. That's ongoing, trying to get them back. Drugs taken off the street, both for Hatfield and neighboring areas. God knows. These things do go on. They do go on in towns like Hatfield, and we're doing the best we can. Hoffner's certainly doing everything he can to. Another good job by Rich Hoffner. And lastly, I'd like to. Here we are. Lieutenant Sorella graduated from the FBI National Academy last week down at Quantico. He had spent 10 weeks there. Myself, Detective Hoffner, Detective Sergeant Hoffner, Detective Steinberg did attend for the graduation. Attorney General Barr was the guest speaker, and FBI Director Christopher Wray actually handed out the diplomas. I hadn't been back down there in 10 years, so I got to revisit the site I was at. And four officers from Hatfield have attended in the past, which is kind of a testament, I think, to the caliber of people that we have here. Congratulations to Jay for a job well done and being down there with some, he was there with people from 46 states and 32 other countries.
Thank you, Chief. To you and your entire staff, you do a great job. We tease you often, but we really appreciate everything that you and your entire staff do, your entire department. Thank you. All right, Finance Committee, Commissioner Andrus.
Often I haven't much to say, but I think it's a great time to pause to see what Hatfield has accomplished over the last several years from a financial perspective and from a capital improvement perspective. So the board has taken a number of actions over the last several months to approve many needed budgeted purchases for the Aquatic Center. The upgrades look great. I was down there last night with the Pool Advisory Commission. Feedback from the community has been very positive. There are also some upcoming capital improvement purchases for a new roof and heating and cooling units at the Detective and Public Works building, as well as repaving trails at School Road Park. The board, as well as the staff, has been working very closely and committed to improving our public safety and infrastructure. Along with the Parks and Recreation, I want to highlight some infrastructure improvements made over the last 5 years and how those projects were funded. Just as a reminder, and this is a great work of the staff, a testament to how well they've been working to get grants for us. So there's been $4 million invested in paving roads and accessible ramps in Hatfield Township. And as a reminder, Hatfield Township does not maintain Cowpath, Villa, Welsh, Allentown roads, or Penn Street, Broad Street, County Line Road, and Bethlehem Pike. Those roads are all maintained by PennDOT and are not Hatfield Township. And Unionville Pike is owned by Montgomery County. And roughly 50% of the funding has come from liquid fuels funds from the state of Pennsylvania. The board has worked very closely with residents, and we've identified and made $200,000 worth of improvements for stormwater management issues that residents might have experienced or recognized throughout our neighborhoods. Another big accomplishment was there's been $4 million worth of repairs to replace 5 bridges, Villa Road, Walnut Street, Shreveport Road, Line Lexington, and Maple Avenue. The township cost was only $437,000. So the rest of the funding, 90% of that funding, came from the state, which is a pretty big achievement. We just touched on Cowpath and Villa. That intersection has been a problem in our community for quite some time. The total project cost is $3.5 million. We had a grant for $280,000 from the state for design and a grant of $1.9 million from PennDOT for construction. Our match was about $700,000, and many of the other fees that we had to come up with were a result of us enacting Act 209, where we collect funds from developers for developing properties in our township. So 80% of that funding, the $3.5 million, was from other resources other than taxpayers. Project coming soon, synchronization of the traffic signals on 40-foot road and Cowpath Road, funded by $900,000 grant from the federal government with local match from both Hatfield Township and Hatfield Borough. We work closely with the Township and Borough to make sure that we're sharing that cost. So 75% of that project was funded by the federal government. So of the total $12.5 million of infrastructure improvements over the last 5 years, over 75% of that funding has been from other sources than Hatfield Township residents. That has enabled us to free up about $9 million of money to spend on our township and infrastructure beyond the public works improvements. So I look forward to working with the board and the staff to continue that effort. It's monumental, and to find $10 million worth of funding from other sources has been fantastic for the community.
Great report, thank you. All right, Township Staff Report. Aaron.
Thanks, Mr. President. Commissioner Rogers in the fall brought to my attention some feedback that he was getting from some residents, and he supported a discussion in a few committee meeting level discussions over the last few months to talk about creating what is referred to as a do not knock list, which would be amending the township's current solicitation ordinance. So what this basically would do, we create a list. If residents were interested, they would be able to sign up to be on this list, which would then be printed out and given to vendors that when they're filing for a solicitation permit through the police department, for those vendors then to not knock on those doors of the homes that would rather not to have that happen. A few things just to talk about. There are some communities that have this in place. There are exemptions to this ordinance. Any First Amendment protected type of speech, religious speech, political speech, would all be exempt from this ordinance. Also, what was discussed with Bob and Larry in the Planning and Zoning Committee was exempting nonprofit fundraisers such as the Boy and Girl Scouts of America, as well as other groups that are trying to raise money. And there was an agreement that it would make sense to have those exemptions in place besides the ones that are federally mandated. We are in a position where we can put this together rather quickly from a staff perspective with Justin's help through a database created probably on a website where residents could sign up and then would be just by the police department as these permits are applied for. Again, it really just covers the for-profit, the businesses that are knocking door to door that are selling certain products, selling certain services. I talked to Chief Tierney today, and he told me that 2018, we issued roughly 35, 36 of these types of permits. So it's not an everyday occurrence, but a few times a month. So we would imagine this will be a pretty popular list, I would think. But the board, if should desire moving forward, we'll have to give the solicitor some direction as far as putting a draft together based on the comments that I just mentioned, based on some of the other towns' ordinances, based on our own ordinance, which we would then amend for review from the board, and then we'd have to advertise it like any other ordinance, and then the board could be in a position to approve this ordinance most likely at some point in July if everyone is interested in moving forward with a draft and then an advertisement.
Questions or comments from residents? Yes, sir.
We could go to the microphone. I'm
Go to the
sorry to make
microphone.
you do that.
Sorry.
Or else we hear about it all the time when people are watching.
Sure, while he's walking over, so this is going to be similar to Pennsylvania, and then, I'm not sure federally, but Pennsylvania has a no-call list that it's solicitations. But of course, we all receive phone calls. We continue to receive phone calls from the exempt entities, which are political, religious, charitable. And this, as I understand it, the way from my individual conversations with commissioners, this would, our ordinance that we would propose, that, or at least we would consider, would mirror that general expectation, is that there are certain exceptions. And of course, it's all voluntary. If somebody wants to be on a list, they're on that list of the no-knock list. If they're not, if they do not want to be on the list, it's not as though this is a prohibition against solicitation by commercial entities. Yes, sir.
Mine is just a personal interest question about that. I'm all for the list, believe me. I'm all for it. I wish the do not call list would work, but it doesn't. So I'm all for this, but my question is, how is it that religious and political have First Amendment in a case like this, but some guy selling windows doesn't?
I could handle that one. Well, the former is First Amendment rights of free speech, and we as a governmental entity can't regulate that. The second, the latter, is a commercial endeavor, and that is something that we can regulate and require people to have permits.
But if we sign up for the do not knock list, a politician can still knock on my door,
Yes,
Correct.
but a guy selling windows cannot
correct.
Correct.
under the First Amendment. So what gives one entity the First Amendment rights and the other not?
For the reason I explained, one is First Amendment protected speech, and the latter is a commercial endeavor, which can be regulated. So if the politician shows...
Face at your door?
No, I welcome politicians coming
Yeah,
to my
Phil-
door. They just don't.
Give it a few months.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, so I'm assuming, unless one of the commissioners tells me otherwise.
I do have a question. So
Sure.
on a sale of a home or transfer of a property, how will that list be maintained?
Great question. Look into that. We have not considered that. Initially, it would be the current owner and listing an address.
Right.
Whether
Understood.
or not, then we'll have to update that as the transactions go through. We'll have to look in to see how we can manage that, because that could be a little trickier than.
Same would be true for apartment complexes, right? I'm assuming.
Sure. Tenants moving, yeah.
It sounds like it would be on the onus would be on the owner.
Complex,
Yeah.
not on the individual apartment.
So the ownership's on us because we're on a list. It's a matter of getting that list and how we're going
We'll
to
have
maintain it.
to, what I'll do is I'll reach out to the other communities that have had this in place to see how they manage some of those transactions, and we'll just kick it around to see how we could deal with that as well. That's a great point. We'll have to look into that.
Yes, sir.
I had emailed with Aaron, having seen this agenda item, to ask some details. So something I'd like to have looked into with this is there has been on and off activity of advertisers who are dropping little baggies with stones in it and some kind of paper advertising on sidewalks, on driveways and whatnot. And there are lazy homeowners who don't pick them up. They sit around, they blow around, they rot. I'd like to get that covered if it's not already. And similarly, door hangers that are left on doors, those things can get blown around and they become trash that's been blowing around the neighborhood. If they aren't covered by this ordinance, I think they should be included to be covered by that. Either they have to get permits for it to deliver that because, you know, they're creating a nuisance in the neighborhoods. Particularly in my neighborhood, we get a lot of good wind that just channels right along the front of houses and rips those things off really easily.
It's a fair statement. I would think that the leaving of door knockers or throwing something out on the driveway, that probably would qualify as some form of solicitation, that somebody, if they're doing that, they really should be getting a permit. So that you raise two issues, not only how it affects the ordinance that we're talking about, but also people who are violating our current ordinance of solicitation. So, okay.
And we did look at, Rick, I appreciate the heads up, because Chief did look into this, and Chief, I don't know if you want to expound, or it's essentially what.
That is
President Zippo
soliciting.
said.
What you're saying is, as long as they encroach on private property, it's soliciting. So if they happen to throw it into your driveway from the street, like, you know, maybe we'd have a question, but if they physically come up to your door, hang it on the door, or drop, like you said, there's things with rocks.
Okay, so if we see that, we
It would just be
can call it
grandfathered
in.
into
Jenny.
whatever the new wording would be.
Okay, thank you.
So is
How
it
does
way-
that-
is a way to curb that, to call it Township and say, hey, listen, I've gotten this thing in my driveway with someone's name?
Yeah, I was going to say, how do you enforce that? Do you just have the residents make a phone call and say, hey, this
Yeah, if somebody
company-
calls and we're able to go out right then and
Find them.
catch the
Find them.
perpetrator, then certainly we could take care of it, make them go back and pick up everything in that block or whatever, and tell them not to do it again. Laws are like everything. The people who adhere to them, we never have an issue. It's when it gets broken and the people never applied for a permit that we have a problem. So this is something that's going to take some diligence on the residents' part and the part of the police department.
Commissioners, too, I did speak to a representative of our neighborhood watch group, and I know we have two members there here tonight, and they were very much in favor. The woman that had called me is very much in favor of this ordinance, and has said in past experiences dealing with the police officers that when she would question a solicitor, different kind of solicitor, one selling at the door, and if there was not a permit, police would respond, and successfully, many times over the years, have been able to talk with them and make sure they became compliant or whatever else was necessary. So there's a lot of people that have been interested in this and would like to see this move forward.
All right. Okay, sounds like we are giving authorization to our solicitor, this one here, to move ahead with the draft of the ordinance for our consideration. Is that agreed?
I have a license, not just a permit, just so you know.
You have a license to drive, but I've seen you drive too.
Well, this is perfect timing because the solicitor's report is up next, and so now you have an opportunity to respond.
Other than Commissioner Andrus, all is well.
All right, any citizens' comments on non-agenda items? All right, I don't see anyone rushing to the podium, so with that, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Motion by Commissioner Thomas, second by Commissioner Andrus. All in favor of adjournment, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Hearing none, we're adjourned. Thanks for coming out, folks.